With us here to discuss this tragic lapse of reason is the editorial director of the American Institute for Economic Research and author of the excellent book, Lockdown or Liberty, Jeffrey Tucker. Jeffrey, thank you very much for coming on Save the Nation.
Oh, John, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yes. Well, with us, I want to first ask you, you were very much a critic of the lockdowns from day one. And realistically, months before that, because you had predicted that something like this might happen. Why were they such an awful idea?
Well, because lockdowns have nothing to do with disease mitigation. Just nothing. I mean, it's crazy. It's just the wrong means to attack, an impossible end. But the CDC had been imagining since 2006 that they would, in the event of a new pathogen coming along, that they would close schools and businesses and that sort of thing. They really did imagine and quarantine people, only the sick back in those days. But I really didn't imagine they would finally use these powers because nothing like that had ever been tried, not even in 1918. It's basically, frankly, a medieval theory of disease mitigation. It made no sense. So I knew that the power is there. I didn't expect them to use it as completely and thoroughly as they did. Locking down, closing things down, abolishing events, disrupting society, wrecking markets, ruining supply chains, dividing workers to essential and unessential, locking people out of hospitals unless they have the pathogen that you approve of. So it was a completely invented policy, mostly implemented by people who had never managed a pandemic before in their lives. So it was a pure kind of crazy experiment, and one we could have known from the very outset was going to fail. We have a lot of research about the impact of unemployment on health, on economic calamity, causing alcoholism and suicides and stuff like that. So we knew that all this was going to happen. So it's a grotesquely irresponsible use of government power that did nothing. What it did was it took a potential disease crisis or a new pathogen and turned it into a vast economic, cultural, social, and even global crisis. That's all that lockdowns really achieved.
Mm-hmm. Well, 2 years from now, let's imagine that a new virus is spreading. How optimistic are you that we won't repeat this tragic comedy of errors again?
Oh, I don't think it'll ever happen again. John, I don't believe it. In fact, it's been very interesting to watch the events of the last week because I wrote in an article that first the lockdowns end slowly, then quickly, and then all at once. That seems to be happening right now. I tell you, yesterday, the governor of Texas, after having pursued 8 months of catastrophic policy for that state, just repealed every bit of his executive orders pertaining to coronavirus and got rid of every single restriction on everything in the entire state. That was a shocking move. It should have happened 8 months ago. It never should have locked down. But it's inspiring others. So Mississippi's in, and now you've got even San Francisco opening up indoor dining. Thank you very much. Even Cuomo today is talking about movies and events. And so they're coming to an end right now, but the public anger is boiling. I mean, it's getting more ferocious because once you lose the fear, that led you to kind of want to be locked down or acquiesce to these power abuses. Once that's gone, then you're left with this shambles. Like, why did we ruin the arts? How come I couldn't see my grandmother in the nursing home? How come I couldn't go to the wedding? Why couldn't I fly to Paris? These are real serious questions. Whatever happened to Broadway? My son and daughter are both artists. Why were all their concerts canceled? These are serious questions, and people are crying out for answers right now. And the pressure that the public will be putting on politicians in the next 2 years is going to be very intense. There are many states that are considering laws that are massively restricting the power of governors and legislatures to ever do anything like this again. It's sad to me, tragic to me that we had to live through this to understand what real despotism feels like, but that's what we've done, and I think the lesson will be learned.
Yeah, Americans don't take well to having their liberty and their ability to produce and work and prosper and create taken from them. Jeffrey Tucker, thank you so much for coming on today. What an informative talk, and thank you so much for what you've done for months and over a year in fighting this ridiculous lapse of reason.
It's been wonderful to fight with you, John. Thank you.